have these deep pools of belief that you can play a bigger game, you know, and that you are capable of more, but not everybody can see that. So being able to, one, help people see that, and then secondly, give them some tools that they can go and execute on that, has been pretty remarkable for me. Now having the ability to go and speak at conferences and events all over the globe, like he's a little guy from Gyra going to New York and Shanghai and Portugal and talking to thousands of people about playing a bigger game. I wonder if the solutions, the ideas, the technology and the thoughts that you need to revolutionise your business in a tough industry are here today. Are they sitting on the table that you're with? At a conference, there's this pizzazz of something's going to go on, and it's stepping into that. That is the magic. There's 1,000 expectant faces in the room, and they want something. I am the person that's been given the job of giving them something that'll make their career better, or their life better, or their business better, and it's fairly humbling to be in that position. But there's also this build of a special occasion. We're gathering for something, and I love the idea of that, of being able to step into the excitement of the occasion so that you're part of the treasured memory of that event.
So you need to have a desire, you need to have a dream, you need to have a passion, you need to have a purpose, you need to have a goal, and you need to have a plan.
My role at the conference is being so good that people go up to the conference organiser and give them a pat on the back. I think people trust me at conferences because I'm a knockabout guy. I'm easy to get along with. I do what I say I'm going to do. In fact, I will do more than I say I'm going to do. And, you know, that's a concept that I implemented in business. So when I created a company at 24 and retired at 34, one of the reasons I was able to do that is we always did more for people than what was in the contract. I brought that into my speaking career of just go on that one step further. And again, that's about playing a bigger game, isn't it? It's about looking for that little bit extra, you know, that enough's not good enough. It's the story of my life. That kick in the backside made me start the process of putting a line in the sand in the future and then fighting like crazy to get across that line. Is deciding what I wanted to achieve and then not letting anything stop me from achieving that. And those little gains, year after year after year, have allowed me to do a whole heap of things like play professional sport, retire at 34, write books, travel around the world. And there's nothing that I've done from playing a bigger game that you guys couldn't do. It's just a matter of going, what lies in the future that I really want to attach myself to, and then doing everything that you can possibly do to achieve that. I get called a motivational speaker all the time, but I'm not really a motivational speaker, you know, because I see the motivational speaker as the rah-rah person who pumps people up, and they're excited for a brief amount of time, but then they go back to their old ways. I'm pumping people up for life, you know, not for the next day or the next week. I'm giving them practical tools that they can apply day in, day out. I believe there are 4 things that every single person in this room controls completely that change the game. 4 things that you control that right now you choose not to control. But if you did, your world would change immediately. I haven't been given the job of standing on a stage and speaking. I've been given the job of a change agent, you know, being able to bring something to the room that after the event, people go, that was enormous value. The key is understanding those people that sit in the middle, because 60% of your employees can be influenced one way or the other on a daily basis. Pretty incredible, isn't it? I think people struggle with playing a bigger game because they might fail. So some people would rather not do it than go through that process. And I like to think that hearing somebody who's been where they are and has been able to turn it around, I think is what people love. I was in Tokyo a few years ago, speaking at a conference just like this. And I get a phone call from my little brother to tell me my father's in Gundawindi Hospital and he has less than 48 hours to live. When I step onto the stage to tell a story, I'm actually in the story. I'm actually running that story through my head, so I'm actually living it on stage, and that's why people can relate to them so well. We need to allow Dad to forgive us. And Ken says, what's he going to forgive us for? He's the alcoholic, he's the one who got divorced, he's the one who hasn't been in touch. I said, imagine lying in the bed that you're going to die in, having never, ever set eyes on grandchildren. If I'm talking about owning your attitude, and then I tell you a story about the death of my dad, those two things come together and mean that when you walk out of here and think about attitude, you'll think about it in relation to the story. And so now you think about, geez, how Rowdy applied the concept of owning your attitude to the death of his dad is something I could do. So we stuck him in a wheelchair, put a straw hat on his head, and wheeled him off down to the Gundawindi pub. And I had the opportunity to have one last beer with my father. This is me and my little brother Ken when we got back to the hospital. We tucked Dad into bed. About an hour later, he looked up, gave us a wave, and drifted off into another world. But if you ever wanted evidence that when you are in complete control of your attitude, the world changes, this photo is it. I think we've lost the concept of being amazing. 1,000 people are going to be here today. I reckon if you ask those 1,000 people, do you think you're amazing? I reckon 995 of them would say no. And so the idea that at the end of this event, a lot more of them are going to believe they are, that's the game that I will play. You are the latest, greatest model in a long line of ancestors that has survived fire, famine, flood, disease, been courageous enough to step into the future so that everything that you have in your world, in your business, in your society today could come to fruition. And you need to be brave enough to step into that for your future, for your kids, for your colleagues, for the people that get to sit in this room in 20 years' time and go, weren't the guys that came before me amazing? So how does a kid from a little country town, somebody who's pretty down to earth and a knockabout guy, how does he manage to relate to the top end of town? And I think it's the same way that I relate to any part of town. It's the fact that you're practical, real, you're not full of jargon, just me, and so if I'm dealing with a CEO, they love the fact that I can talk to them just like I'm talking to you now and tell them what I think is right and what I think is wrong, but in a way that's not confronting. And I think that I do that with audiences, Quite often I'll push an audience's buttons, but I do it in a way that they go, I needed that, rather than who is he? Because you can't play a bigger game unless you push, right? So it's that combination of being hard enough to push people, but being soft enough to care about them on the way. You can get out in front and drag them along, or you can get in behind and push them along, or sometimes you can just walk beside them on the journey. That we live in a cotton wool society. Cotton wool society that says don't run, don't walk, don't swim, don't talk. If you're going to go on this journey to play in a bigger game, if you're going to achieve more, be more, do more and have more, you have to be aware that the cotton wool society is designed to hold you back. We'd rather watch Survivor or I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here, than go on an adventure. Cotton wool society, and it's scary because it'll keep pushing you back on the lounge if you allow it to. And then we do sit on the lounge and we want Jerry Springer or Dr. Phil just to make sure we're not that stuffed up. And if you allow it to, the Cotton Wool Society will march down your street, kick down your door and throw you back on the lounge because you're not good enough, you're not great enough, you're not worthy. If you allow it to happen, the years will go by and you'll look back and go, what happened? Every single day I bump up against something where I just go, the world's an incredible place. And sometimes that's sitting in the mall having a cup of coffee and just watching the humanity walk past and listening to people laugh and going about their day. And the simplest thing can make me sit back and go, geez, what a world we live in. A world full of so much possibility.